Hey everybody, my name is Debbie and this is Real People, Real Stories Raw with Debbie and my wonderful co-host Jay Rothman. And today we have an incredible guest on. Her name is Emily. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Debbie. In fact, my name is Jay Rothman, and it's good to see the two of you this afternoon. It is about 6:30 on the East Coast in the U.S. If you're coming in from the U.S., thank you for joining us on a live or replay. And if you are overseas, it either is your evening or it's the evening of the next day or the next morning for you, which would make it Monday overseas. So happy Monday to you if you're coming in from outside of the U.S. But in any event, Emily, welcome to the show this afternoon. It's good to see you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Before we get started, Emily, I would just like to share a couple of thoughts with you and the audience for those that are watching with us. First and foremost is that Debbie and I, our intention is to set a very safe environment for you so that we basically look at this as a conversation that the three of us are having. And if any time you need to take a break or we should ask you a question that you don't feel comfortable with, you can set a healthy boundary with us and just let us know. I'm just not comfortable and going there right now. And we will accept that and accept you because we're in a no judgment zone. Also, for those that are watching in the audience, feel free in our community, if you hear something that you like or love, gently press the like or love button on your laptop or phone. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to share it, as this is not a monologue, but this is a dialogue, a conversation between the three of us and those that are watching with us. And so before we jump in, Emily, I would like to just thank those that are joining us. We've got Ronnie Fisher coming in from Sydney, Australia. We have Barbara Douglas coming in from, I believe it is Louisiana. If I got that wrong, Barbara, you could let me know. Once again, Suzanne DeBosi is coming in from Michigan. And if you jump in with us today, let us know where you're coming in from, because Debbie and I like to acknowledge that. We are a global community. We have a very far reach, and we are so blessed and happy that we are able to connect with people soul to soul. It doesn't matter if you're coming in from Payson, Arizona, like Emily is, or Canada, like Debbie is, or myself. I'm coming in from Arizona as well. Emily and I are neighbors, maybe about a 2-hour drive that separates us. We are always a phone call or a video chat away. And so with that, we also have, I believe your sister has jumped in and joined us.
Hi, Jenny.
Jenny is here. She is with us, and she is.
That's my twin sister.
Well, she's going to hold your hand. So thank you for joining us, Jen. So Emily, where would you like to begin to share? This is the second time you came. You've asked to come on to the show. The first time we had some technical challenges with service, and so you've had some time to continue the healing process and to come back and share whatever it is that you're comfortable with. We'd like to hear some of your past, but even more important, we'd like to hear how that has translated into growth for you and some of the things that you do today to give back to society and to give back to yourself. And so with that, welcome again.
Hi, guys. Well, I would like to start with my life. To sum it up, is with one word would be hope. I've never given up hope. And my life, I've been sexually abused. I've been raped. I've been on drugs. I've been homeless. I've been, when I was 13, I was in a sex trafficking ring that I didn't even know what it was. So I've had a crazy life. I was in a house fire when I was, it was about 10 years ago. So I was 21. I was in a house fire. And all of my childhood stuff was burned. My child Raven was in it. It was crazy. I've saved people out of burning buildings. I've been in rollover accidents. It's been crazy. I guess I can give you a little timeline. When I was 6 years old, I was molested by my mother's love affair. And that started my mental illness problems. I would lash out. School is very hard. My parents decided, oh, we'll take it in our own hands. They didn't know that this had happened, but their marital problems, they decided, we'll up and leave and move from New York to Payson, Arizona. That was a cultural shock. We had a huge Italian family. We had a lot of support. Yes, it was very dysfunctional, but we were together and everybody needs were met. We were very poverty stricken. My my dad worked out of town a lot. My mom had 6 kids. She was a young teenage mom, so she never really knew how to raise kids. And so with 6 kids, she just didn't know really how to take care of us. So moving to Payson, my dad thought, oh, it's paradise. I had like an extended aunt that lived in Phoenix, so they had visited one time and they fell in love with it. They didn't really like Phoenix because it was too hot. Flagstaff, it was too cold. So Payson was like in the middle, kind of was like upstate New York. So my dad's like, this is paradise. We're going to start a new life. Everything's going to be great. He left the drugs and alcohol. They tried to do it. They lasted about a year and marital problems happened. He started doing drugs. She started full-time nursing again. Me and my siblings kind of just fend for ourselves. My older siblings, I have 6 siblings, 5 that are living. Jeffrey, who is the oldest, who is now like 46. I have Jessica, who is 41, and then my sister Jenny was 45. And so those 3 older raised us 3 younger, which is Aaron, who is 5 years older than me, and Evan, who is 2 years younger than me. And so I'm 31. So my brother's 28, my sister's 36. So we kind of took care of ourselves as kids. We didn't really have any parental guidance. So at 13, I was at a babysitter's house, or somebody just watched me while my mom was at the house because I was really, I had behavioral problems in school because I was lashing out from the sexual molestation that I never talked about. So at 13, I started running with a whole bunch of kids that were on the streets doing drugs. I was not sexually active or anything. I just was heavily into drugs. I was drug dealing. I was hanging out with older men and other women. It was a horrible scene for a child. My parents were at work, so they never knew what I was doing. They would just give me money thinking I was going to buy food or whatever. And so at 13, I went to a abandoned house on Super Bowl Sunday, and there was a party there. I'd gotten drunk for the first time and passed out and woke up, and some older guy was raping me. And so I came home and my parents were fighting and they were drunk because they had Super Bowl party. And I thought, like, I got to tell them what had happened to me when I was a kid and what had just happened to me. And so I never told anybody because I thought they weren't going to believe me because they were drunk anyway. So I went in my room and I cried myself to sleep. That very next day I went to, it wasn't a babysitter, it was just a friend of the family that she was older and she used to babysit me. So I used to like going to her house. And this girl, this woman, I said, I need to tell you something. Something's bothering me. Something happened to me last night. I think I was raped, but I don't know because I was passed out and drunk. I don't know if that's consensual or non-consensual. So because of what had happened to me as a small child, I didn't know what love was. I didn't know what sex was. I didn't know what consensual anything was. And so when I approached her, she had said, listen, I know something happened to you. If you tell me, I can share a story with you. So I had told her what had happened when I was a child and what had happened that night at the party. She had said her and her mom never believed her. I said, I need to tell you something. Something happened to me when I was 6 and something happened last night. She was the first person to believe me. So she told my parents, and they, instead of calling the cops or anything, they took it in their own hands and they didn't do anything. They beat the guy up. They went back to New York and beat the guy up and said, hey, we beat him up, and he didn't admit to it. That never helped me. I never got any psychological help. I started using street drugs heavily to try to get away from all these feelings. my biggest thing is I felt not believed by anybody. My dad believed me, but my mom was still up in the air. I don't know if she even still believes me till this day. But so bad behaviors and bad situations is all I got myself up until I was about 18. Well, I kind of skipped over 15. At 15, I met a homeless boy. He was living at his aunt's house on the front porch. And I was like, you can come over to my house and you can stay in where it's warm. And I actually, like, he became my best friend. And because I didn't know what consensual sex was or what sex was really, I said, I think that because we've been hanging out for 3 weeks, I should just, we should have sex. And he was like, we're just friends. I don't want to have sex. And so we had sex and I got pregnant with my son, my very first child. And at that point, he moved into our house. He got off the streets. We were both on probation at the time. We did whatever we could. We tried to be adults overnight. It didn't happen. It didn't really work. We were selling marijuana to pay our probation fines. Neither one of us did marijuana or drugs or alcohol because we were on probation. And somebody told on us that we were selling marijuana and our house got raided and my parents' house got raided. And he went to prison and took all the blame so I could raise my newborn baby. At 16, I stayed home and did homeschool, and my other half went to prison until he was 19. He got charged as an adult and stayed in prison, and we broke up, and I tried to move on, go to school. At 18, I graduated high school. I joined medical school. My mom's a nurse. My grandfather is a nurse. My sister's a nurse, so obviously I had to be a nurse. That wasn't the case. My life, I enjoyed food. I enjoyed gardening with my mom. I enjoyed watching her cook. I loved everything about food, but I was scared to tell people my true authentic self. I was afraid to say, hey, I like to cook. I don't really like, blood and guts. Like to this day, my kid will fall on his longboard and I'm like, oh my gosh. Blood and guts first. But so I tried to overwork and make everybody good of me and forget about everything that had just happened in my whole life. I thought my mom's Italian, so it was just get over it, come to dinner. It's like, no, you can't just eat a meatball and everything's fine. I have to deal with these things, and so I've learned through not tough loving it anymore and dealing with my stuff has helped me. So instead of going to medical school and not enjoying what I like to do, I confided in one of the students, and I was like, you know what, I'd rather cook for you guys at lunchtime than read these books. And so to get me through medical school, to keep me sane and everything, is I would cook these girls lunch while we're at school. At break, I would bring these girls hot dogs or sandwiches or paninis, whatever. And they just loved it. And they're like, why don't you do food? Why are you doing all this stuff that you don't really like to do? I'm like, honestly, to make my family proud. And then what if you were a chef? Do you think that would make them proud? And I never thought about it. So I continued my nursing. I got in very toxic relationships. By 21, I was with somebody addicted to opiates. I was with him for 3 weeks, and his mom overdosed and died of an opiate overdose. And so it was a very toxic relationship. So I thought, I'm going to save him. I don't do drugs. Maybe I can be with him, and that'll make everything okay. It was such a toxic relationship. I had to leave. We were really good friends, but it wasn't right. I still continue to go to school and overwork. I worked 4 hours a week, 3 days. So I worked 2 16-hour shifts, and then the next day it was just complete chaos. I was like a robot on the third day, 40 hours in 3 days. It was too much. And then going to med school full time, it was just crazy chaos. But that was the only way that I could condition myself every day to get through those flashbacks and those uncomfortable feelings. And being sober, like I would go through these sober bouts for 5 years. I'd be sober. I wouldn't hang out with people. I had agoraphobia so bad I didn't leave the house. That was the only way I could stay sober. So I would, be typing away at home doing school, and I would just stay recluse. But it wasn't helping me. The more I isolated, the more sicker I got. Yeah, I was away from the drugs and stuff, but I wasn't actually away from the toxic behavior. So I realized I enjoyed cooking, but I didn't know how to move to the next step and say, I'm just going to go work at a fast food restaurant or a restaurant and learn from the bottom. I don't have to go to culinary school to prove my family that I'm something or somebody. It was a battle between myself. Like my true authentic self was, hey, I want to be a chef. I'm going to talk about my problems. But I had like imposter syndrome. I was like, I'm going to be a nurse. I'm going to let everybody run my life. And I'm going to let all these people have my power. So after I got out of the toxic relationship, I got into another toxic relationship. And this one was very, very traumatizing. This man, like 10 years ago, I could not tell you guys this story because it probably would have cost me my life. He sexually abused me. He beat me up. He broke my jaw. He broke my son's arm. He injured my family beyond repair. And I tried numerous times to tell the police, and it wasn't that they didn't believe me. They didn't have enough facts. And because I was so scared all the time, nothing matched up. And so after 2.5 years of excruciating, traumatizing abuse, the only way to get away from him was call the cops on him. It was a detective that I had, as an adolescent teen, I babysat his children. And I trusted him. It was like an older uncle. Like I had that kind of trust. And because I had such a bad background, I thought, how could a police officer, trust me to watch his kids? He must know my true heart, that I'm a good person, that I'm not a weird drug or any of these things that I was told people and myself. So I confronted him. I said, Detective, can you please help me get this man behind bars? I know he's abusing me. He's abusing my child. Can you please help me? And he said, yes. So the more I told him, the more the case got bigger and bigger. I thought safety was going to be coming sooner and sooner. Well, he must have told him that I was working with him, so he hospitalized me at 8 months pregnant. He tore the occipital lobe in my brain. I have a lot of memory problems, and through healing, the neuroplasticity in my brain has healed tremendously in the last, 8 years. But the thing is the moral damage is the ones that I'm now dealing with. And so I got an MRI. They tell me they can't do anything because I'm so far along pregnant. I'm going to have to come back after I have the baby. So I'm like, okay. He does one night and they let him out because it was only a domestic violence thing. They couldn't keep him. He has hundreds and hundreds of charges pending, but nothing was going to keep him from being in prison. So I go back to this detective and say, hey, like, what happened? Like, now I have no trust in you. You told him I was working with you. And so what had happened, I got in a rollover car accident on my way down to the doctor's appointment in Phoenix. I was dilated to 2 centimeters and I was 10 days away from having my baby. My abuser's in the car and he says, drop me off at the bus station. I'm going to California. He had been on the run for probably 2 years. And I'm like, oh, thank God, I'm going to drop him off. He's going to go. I'm going to have this baby. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to get on an airplane and leave and never see him. Well, he tells me, I said, okay, I'm going to drop you off. He says, what do you mean you're going to drop me off? He was coming down off of heroin. So he had like a meltdown and grabbed the steering wheel and says, I'm going to kill you and the baby. And you're not going to live through this. So no worries, right? He grabs the steering wheel, the car flips, rips off one of the wheel. It lands back on all three wheels at the time, and my stomach hit the steering wheel. And this is when I believed in angels. My best friend had committed suicide a year before, and I know it was him. I know it sounds weird, but as the car flipped over, I had the sense of like a bear hug around my baby. In my stomach, I saw it with my eyes. I hit the steering wheel, and we landed on all four tires. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm safe. I didn't feel any kind of shock or anything. I was just like, holy crap, I made it through this. And so as I said that, he looked at me like, how did you make it through this? You know, he's all jumbled up in the car. And I was just like, you know what? I know at this very moment, God's going to protect me. I believe in God. I know that this is real. The first car to come past us is a police officer. I'm like, thank you, God. You know what? I told the officer nothing because he says, I'm going to kill you if you say anything. So I'm just in hysterics. Like, I'm in full-blown labor. And all I could think of is tell this guy just did this. But I was so scared, and he's abused me so much that I couldn't say anything. And everybody's thinking, like, why didn't you say anything? Well, if I did, even in those 5 minutes, I didn't know what this man was capable of. He just flipped my car. So I give birth on Scottsdale. It was a beautiful hospital. Everything was great. It was natural, 5 hours. But then the reality of it is like, crap, I'm getting out, and this guy's going to be out when I'm here. The cops aren't going to take him away. No one's believing me. So we're getting ready to leave. We did 3 days in the hospital. He says, I'm going to kill you and the baby. And I'm just like, what? And so I pulled the emergency cord, or like the nurse button in the hospital. And they come in, and he yanked my IV out of my arm, and she called the security. So he runs downstairs, and I'm supposed to be leaving the hospital in a taxi to go back to Payson because I'm in Phoenix, 2 hours away from my home. He gets in my taxi, tells them he needs to go home. So here's this man on the run again, and I'm stranded at the hospital with my child. At this point, I started praying, please protect me, and please put this man in prison, and please do something. I get home. He lasted maybe 2 days, and he got picked up and went to prison. I fled for my life and went to my sister's in Dallas, Texas, and stayed there for 2 weeks. In that time, he got picked up. He's only on drug charges now. Nothing for what he did to me. They have no idea what he did to me at this point. He has a large amount of drugs, so they put him in prison for 10 years. At this point, I'm safe for 10 years. It's been 10 years. He got out 2 months ago. That wasn't the biggest thing. The biggest thing was I had 10 years to heal. 2 years after he was incarcerated, the cop that I confined in, the detective, was doing a area search for a guy who did criminal damage to 15 condo complexes. I was one of them. I was sleeping. I didn't know that my car tire had been slashed by a knife. So I get a knock on the door, and it's a cop. And he flashes his light. I'm in a nightgown. He flashes it at my stomach and says, Miss Morton, go get your clothes on. Your car's been vandalized. I'm like, holy crap. I run upstairs, get clothes on. And he's like, it's the detective that helped me put this guy away. I'm thinking he's my buddy. This guy helped me get my ex in prison for 10 years. This is my hero. Okay, well, I do the victim's right for him because I'm a victim now because somebody slashed my tire. I left my phone number because it gives your phone number, address, all that stuff on the paper. Well, he had texted me that night and said, hey, young lady, you should come to the door with more than just your nightgown out on because there's people out there that can hurt you, like me, LOL. I was like, holy crap, why is this guy who's 15 years older than me talking sexual to me? I thought he was just maybe drunk or something. Who knows? I didn't even know why he was. And so that very next night, he's in my bedroom. And he wiggles my toes, and I woke up and I'm like, holy shit, am I getting raided? I don't do drugs or anything, but in my brain, it's like when I see cops, that's all I can think of. I've been sober for over 5 years, so it's not like that was the case. Why is there a police officer in my bedroom? So he proceeded to rape me. Who am I going to call when he leaves? The police? He was on duty. He was in full uniform. So here brings back I'm 6 years old. I got to tell my mom that her boyfriend molested me, right? Those are flashing back. I'm like, no one's going to believe me. So the very next night, I tried to commit suicide. I had taken all my prescription pills and drank more alcohol than I've ever consumed in my whole life. I got in my car and ran off the road, smashed it, and almost hit a tree. The cop who was at the scene was the man who raped me the night before. So here I am staggering out of my car, and he's telling me, Emily, give me your phone. I'm going to call your brother and have him pick you up. And I promise I won't tell you. I won't tell the other officers. I'll say this is a stolen car if you have your brother come pick you up. So I'm getting my phone out. I'm delirious. Give him my phone. He deletes all the messages from the night before of him saying that he raped me, and don't tell anybody because no one's going to believe you. So here I am going to jail now because my brother isn't coming. He didn't take the phone to call my brother. He's saying that I'm belligerent. He knows everything about me since I was 15 years old and says, you know what? You're going to jail tonight if you tell anybody anything. And so here I am at the police station in hysterics. He's saying I'm mentally ill and I'm on drugs, and that she does this all the time. I guess that when I got to the jail, they had said to each other, she's crazy, put her in a psych ward. They ripped off all my clothes and told me I couldn't have any blankets because I was suicide risk. I was so demoralized beyond repair. At that point, no one was going to believe me. I was lost. So I had to see the judge the next day. And that very next day, she said, do you remember what happened last night? And I said, no. And as I was leaving the courtroom, I had smashed my head into the doorway because I thought it would kill me. It didn't, obviously. It just gave me a really bad concussion and put me in the hospital. I woke up the very next morning in a psychiatric hospital. And the doctor said, honey, what happened to you? Because I was covered in bruises from the cops yanking me out of the cop car, and I was fighting them, trying to tell them what had happened to me. And at that point, every cop was going to hurt me. So I was attacking them all. And so the doctor said, honey, I know something happened. Tell me what happened. And I said, if I told you, you wouldn't even believe me. And so she says, do you remember anything? And I said, no. And it took almost 2 weeks of being in that hospital before I started talking. And when I did, they said, why didn't you tell me when you first came in? And I said, because no one would believe me. And so at that point, I was rooming with a girl and I told her my whole story. I mean, I was in there for 2 weeks, so I told her everything. She said, Emily, I need to tell you something. Like this happened to me in Mexico, and no one believed me because I was American. And they said, because she was drunk, who cares? Because she was drunk, she deserved it. And I was like, this is the first person that I can find in that believed me. At that point, I wasn't alone. I was stronger because I had somebody to believe in me and to confide in. So at that point, I lost my career when I came home. I lost my condo I had just built. I had a Habitat for Humanity condo that I built from the ground up because our house burnt down. Like I said, I was in a house fire. And so like all these good things were coming, but it wasn't good things because I couldn't ever appreciate them because I wasn't ever in the present. So after that, I lasted about 2 years on like government support CAP, which is like a community action program here in Payson. I lived food bank to food bank. Now that I didn't have a purpose, because I was going to school to become a doctor delivering babies, I didn't really feel like I had a purpose. And because I had no culinary experience, that wasn't even in the ballpark yet. So it's time for me to move out. I'm losing the house. The neighbors are on the right side of the condo. They're always on drugs and fighting and screaming. So the house actually never felt like a home. It always felt like a prison. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to let the house go. I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to give up on everything. I lost my career. I've lost everything. My parents played a really good part in my life at that time because they helped me with my kids. They always had stability. They had jobs and they had a home, so they could provide that for the kids. Me, on the other hand, I was mentally unstable and I was losing everything. So at this point, I was like, I don't want to be homeless, but I have no other options. And my pride was like, don't move in with your parents because I can't do that. I'd rather be homeless. So I became homeless. I was losing my kids. I was losing my mind. I had one friend, her name's Olive. She had dreadlocks. She was very spiritual. Me, I was very like conservative, shut down, not going to let you know who I am. She was just a free spirit. She came over. I had like 2 or 3 weeks left in my house. She said, let's make some bread. I got 5 pounds of flour and we got water in the sink until they shut it off. Let's make some bread. I was like, okay, well, let's make some bread. So we made rolls. She was making roses on top of them, braiding them. I was like, holy crap, I didn't even know you could do this with bread. We're eating them like we could only eat so many dozen rolls. And we're like, okay, let's go give these to the neighbors. So we're giving them out to the neighbors. And that was the first day of my life that I felt present because I had to put all the ingredients together. I had to make sure this went with that, went with this. And if I put too much of this, then it doesn't rise. And like we went trial and error for hours and days, you know? And so eventually I was just like, I like this and I really enjoy food. And I think as a child, I've always loved it. I used to go and take my siblings' orders with a little notepad. Hey, what would you like for dinner tonight? Or, hey, how would you like your steak cooked? And I would go mimic my mom, whatever she was doing. I was too little to cook. I was the second to youngest. So I would sit there and I would watch her make spaghetti or pizza or whatever. I was like, man, I'm going to be a chef one day. So she bought me a chef hat when I was like 6. I don't know even where it is right now. And it was just like, that was my calling. Even though I was in a dark place, I've had all these traumatizing things happen. It was like wham, 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 one thing after another. I kept thinking, I talked to someone lately and they said they felt like God was a mean kid with a magnifying glass and they were like, I just kept thinking, why is this happening? Why is this happening to me? And the second I just quit thinking like that, it was just like, maybe this has to happen because this is life and this is how it's supposed to be. Life just started changing. And when I started thinking like that, it was because of the bread. I don't know how to explain it. It was the process of making something wholesome, something warm, something nutritious, something that you made out of nothing. And so when I thought like that, my journey just started rapidly healing. So here I am, yes, homeless. Yes, I'm lost, but I'm also getting found at the same time. I'm having an understanding of people that I've never had. I'm seeing myself for the first time. And what the next step is I met this guy. I started working at a marijuana dispensary in town as a baker. I went in there to bake their stuff because I wanted ever so much to cook. So I'm working there and I'm cooking this stuff and this guy comes in and I'm like, he looks interesting, but I so hate guys and I don't trust anybody. I can't talk to this guy. Well, I did. I was like, I want to know something about you. Like, what are you about? And he's like, well, I used to do like mixed martial arts and karate and I did women's self-defense. At that point, like in my life, I had already told somebody what had happened to me about the cop thing. So people started believing me, like lots of people, like lawyers wanted me to do a $5 million lawsuit against the town and police department. And that wasn't my calling.
Emily?
They started believing me.
Emily?
Yes.
Can I just take a moment here just to invite you to take a nice deep breath. You earned it right now, my dear. You shared a lot of your story, and I think it's a good time to actually, as you go into the transition of how life started to change for you in a positive, just take a moment to breathe. And I'd like to take a moment for myself to just breathe as well, and just thank you for showing up today and acknowledging that it takes a lot of courage to step into the studio like you have with Debbie and I, and to thank you for that. I know this is not an easy thing to do, and it takes a lot for you to go back in time and kind of rehash the memories that not quite sure how much of the healing you have done yourself. Regardless if you've done it or not, it still brings us back to that space and time. And so I just want to thank you for showing up and knowing that we're here for you in this moment. and we both honor you and respect you for being here with us today. You had absolutely, what you shared with us was absolutely horrific. There are no words that I can use right now to describe it any better than that. It was horrific, and no human being deserves to have gone through what you went through. The fact that you are alive today and you are present with Debbie and I and those in the community, and for your children and family members and your friends, what a gift! And that's what I'm excited to hear about right now is how has your life changed, and what did it take for you to get from where you were to where you are at today? And would love to hear more about that, as well as what type of what are you doing for yourself today, as well as for others in the community?
What started that day in the dispensary, I met my fiance 4 years ago, and I got motivation to trust another human being. I never thought I would ever trust another person, let alone a man. And so he restored faith in humanity for me, and it's been a crazy roller coaster of a healing journey. Every day is tough. Recovery is tough. Mental illness is not for sissies. I like to call myself a warrior, not a victim or a survivor, a warrior, because I had to fight, and I still fight. I fight every day with my past, and I fight ever so hard to be present. And that relationship with my fiance Skylar has healed me tremendously. It was the first person I've ever had consensual sex with, and that's weird. I'm 31 years old, but I found somebody that I can trust completely inside and out, and I love him dearly. And that's what's kept me healing so rapidly, is because I'm not hyper independent anymore. I'm not thinking I can take on this all by myself, because it didn't take one person to get me this way, and it's not going to take one person to help me recover and turn this into a wellness recovery. And what I love to do is bake, and I, in the last 5 years, have taught myself how to become a pastry chef, because and that has been a curse, but it's also been something that has helped me, because I've been really in tune to watching. So I've mimicked how gourmet chefs in front of me, if I'm in the pantry and they're right across from me, I can do exactly what they do, because I watch everything, because I've had to be on my toes. It's not so good when you're at the library and someone's like, hey, and you're like, put your boxing gloves up. It doesn't really help, but it has helped me in my recovery as for watching and teaching myself. I have a tremendously huge heart for the homeless, because I've gone through homelessness myself. So with me and my cooking, I ever so much want a nonprofit organization so I can go to the food banks and set up my food cart and feed them hot food while they're getting their boxes of food. I have a huge heart for the outreach and the poverty stricken. I still, to this day right now, have a little to no money, but I have a huge heart, and I'm rich in friends and family, which I never have had. And so I guess this healing process has been really up and down, but worth it. And something that I've learned from all this is it had to happen. Unfortunately, it did happen, but it's molded me into the person who I am today. And because I've lived through it, I have a voice now, and I can start talking about situations that many people don't live to ever talk about. They either take themselves to suicide, drug overdose, or they just don't make it out. They're murdered. And so if I could be a voice for the voiceless, I will tell my story. And sometimes it is uncomfortable, but at times I find peace in it, because I get it out for the first time. This is the first time I've actually got it out. I stutter. I have a stuttering problem when I get anxious. For some reason, It's not some reason, it's God. God has very much protected me in this realm with you guys.
You're so safe right now.
I can feel it. I can so feel it. And I believe in God, and that's what's gotten me through all of this and through all those horrible things. He had my hand through the whole time saying, just make it through this. We got this. I promise you'll see the light. And I did. And now that I see it, I want to share it. And I know if I shine bright, it can make everybody else shine and see their own light. Everybody has the light. It's not just me. I'm just this Hispanic lady. In Flagstaff, I drove up to give her cupcakes, and she had said, I can't remember it in Spanish. It was like Guerrera, and that means warrior in Spanish. And I just thought, you know what? That is the word. I needed a word. I needed something to justify what I've gone through and what I'm doing right now. And that's what you guys are. Not everybody has to have a traumatizing life to have pain. We all know what pain is. That's what's real about people, is we can understand one another if you just listen. And maybe we don't have the same stories, but we know what pain is. And that's where we can relate. And where there's pain, there is hope. And if you hold on to that hope, you can get anywhere in life. And I might be poverty stricken right now, and I don't have anything, but
you're struggling. You're waiting for the money to come in. That's what you're waiting for, abundance. You're not poverty stricken. You're just waiting for the abundance check.
I'm full and rich in friends and love. Like when I was in these dark places, I didn't have what I have now. I had like 15 people at potluck. I have not had that many people in my home in a long time, and they come for my food, but they also come for the love. Like when you bring food, you bring people, and when you bring people, you bring this like amazing togetherness, and you unite as one, and you realize, hey, I needed to know that. I needed that recipe. Hey, I needed just to hear your story. You need that. And I believe really, really strongly is we're stronger as one. I solely couldn't get through what I went through. God had to have been there. He got me through there, and I wasn't alone. I thought I was, until that day in that mental hospital, and that girl said, you know what, you're not alone. Hey, I went through that. And when I related to her, I realized, whoa, I'm not alone. I have God, but I also have other people who have gone through the same thing, and they had God with them too. And I really strongly believe highly in having that togetherness. Like my family and I have been toxic. Like my parents divorced 2 years ago after 35 years, and my 6 siblings went to other states. My father got sick a couple weeks ago. All of us came together. Mom moved back in. My brother moved it back in with dad. They're taking care of each other through this hardship. They can't do it by themselves. I can't do it by myself. All 6 of my siblings were on the phone every single day. My dad was in the hospital. Do you think that's happened in 25 years? No. I know God is working miracles every single day of my life. And he shows me with just today, just now, like having a voice and actually being heard and people believing me is a miracle. And
I wanted to stop you right now.
Emily, go ahead, Debbie. Go ahead.
I just wanted to tell you that I'm so proud of how brave you are. It's hard. It's hard, isn't it? But you did it. And I'm so proud of you right now. And I believe you, okay? And I believe you.
Emily, there's a few things that you've shared today that I just want to expand upon and acknowledge. It's okay. Take a moment to feel what you're feeling right now. What is it that you're feeling right now?
A whole bunch of love from all of my friends and family, and all of my spirit angels that are just like my grandma who's not here. And my best friend, who I said got me through that car accident. There was no way I should have lived through that. Many things. And I know my angels are here, and I feel them.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing that with both Debbie and I. I want to just touch on a few things I'm hearing very clearly from you. One is your faith in God. which it's a miracle that you didn't lose faith in God, because a lot of people that have been traumatized and gone through some type of abuse and assault, physical, emotional, mental, and sexual assault like you have, lose faith that there is a God there. That's not, why is God not protecting me? Yet your unwavering faith and trust in God is, I believe, is what has helped get you to where you're at. The second thing is bread. Now, John Thaddeus Fiore just joined us a little late in the show. Yeah.
Hi,
but,
John.
John, at some point, he may catch the replay, the first part that he missed, where you talked about how the day that you made bread for the first time was the day that your awakening began. And whether you know today what was behind that or not, I don't know, other than the fact that you had shared earlier that you knew somewhere down in your process, your journey of education and growing, that you were in school to become a nurse or medical doctor of some sort for the wrong reasons. You weren't doing it for yourself. You weren't listening to your own intuition and your own inner soul. You were doing it for all the wrong reasons. You were doing it because it's what you thought what would make your family proud. Yet the day you touched and made the bread was the day your awakening began. And I suspect that has everything to do with the fact that you finally came home.
I did.
Metaphorically speaking, that day you came home to your soul.
Yeah.
You did something that you had always wanted to do and just didn't have the courage to step in and step out. And that day was the day where it all began. And as we're speaking here, I'm going to hold this up. Let me know if you can see it or not. What does it say?
It's hope.
Yeah. So this is that's one of my engraved stones. The other one I have is this one right here, because this is the second thing that hits me pretty hard right now. Well, I gotta get it back onto the screen. Inspire. And that's something that you just did for me today. You inspired me. And there's a third one that's sitting here in front of me, and I only have 3 right here. I've got a few others scattered throughout. But this is the third one, and this is the one that may have the most meaning for you right now. Believe. And how does that feel to receive that? That's my gift to you in this moment.
I love you guys, and I appreciate you so much.
And just imagine what I went through and what you went through has only brought us together to meet each other. And she invited me to her wedding, Jay. So I'm going to go to her wedding. It's my first time out of Canada. I'm going to go see Emily and go celebrate their beautiful day.
That means that I have no choice, but Mary and I will come out. We're only a couple of hours from Payson.
And we have to have John out.
Yes, well, John, if you're here and you gotta come, buddy, we gotta make some mozzarella together.
But that is June 29th is the day before my birthday. And so we're going to have a lot to celebrate. It's going to be all about Emily, but we definitely we will have lots of toast and lots of ways to acknowledge your most important day in your life today. So we, believe it or not, Emily, it is, we're about 7 minutes from the hour that we will have been live. How are you feeling in this moment right here, right now?
I feel relieved. I feel like 100 million pounds has been just like I've been carrying this huge backpack and 100 other people's backpacks, and I just couldn't carry anymore, and it's gone. Because I keep it all inside, and now I don't have to. I'm a part of a nonprofit organization that sends me all over Arizona to do public speaking on mental illness. It's called NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness. It's what's gotten me to where I'm at to be social. Like I said, I was a agoraphobic, and I didn't leave the house. And I started this just like a support group, and then they had classes on it. And then they were like, well, you can become a facilitator. I thought, well, what better yet? Like, I could get out of the house and like help others. And so slowly but surely, I know that I'm not alone. And I know that there's so many other people out there struggling, and everybody has a story. Everybody's story is their testimony when they talk about God, and they bring that, to everybody. Like the second I started talking, I was like, I can't do this, and I just gave it away. I give it to God, and that's how I get through every day. Because there's days where it's like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed, I'm having, just not a good day. And then I think, well, you know what? It could be worse. I could be back in the lifestyle that I was, but I'm not. And I can do this. It's going to be a tough day, but I can do this. And that's how I've been dealing with this. And
so proud of you.
Just having support and people to talk to and like-minded people, we can get through anything. It's just, God is so amazing. And I never was like this. I could never tell anybody about my faith. It was like, I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel confident. And now it's like, I know to my core, down to my roots, this is what saved me. And this is what's gotten me through what I've gone through. Because many people are like, I can't believe that you're still alive through all this. And to me, it was just like another day. Nothing scares me because I've had to condition myself. And I thought, well, maybe that's a bit of a problem. And that's okay to say, I've had a pretty... If I tell people I've had a tough life, then that's crying wolf or something. So I never said anything. And now I'm
acknowledging it.
Yeah, I can acknowledge that, hey, I've had a pretty crappy hand dealt to me, but I turned out winning. And
your hand was winning to begin with, but it looked like crap because you didn't see anything else on the table for you. You didn't see the cards flipped, and you're like, oh wow, a 2 and a 7, but you don't know you got a full house. You know what I mean? It may be the worst card in the deck, but you could win.
Exactly.
Emily, could you share a little bit about the business that you have that you're in today? What is it? And because I catch a lot of your posts and they look amazing. A lot of the stuff I don't think that I could eat or I choose not to eat today because it's just not the choices I make for my own nutrition. But could you share with us and the audience what it is that you are doing today?
Okay, so Love'em's Bikery. Okay, so I was homeless at the time. I met that girl, started making bread. She inspired, like, hey, you're pretty good at this, go sell it. Well, I learned how to longboard to something to do with my older son. So I taught my son how to longboard, I taught myself how to longboard. So we had these 2 longboards that was given to us, and we started going door to door selling bread. Wherever we were at, we could get a 5-pound bag of flour for $2 and make a living if we wanted ends meet. And so it started with 2 boards. And then this guy was selling a cargo bike, and I had just done taxes. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to buy this cargo bike. It's a Mexican cargo bike. You've probably seen them down in Phoenix, Jay. They sell like corn, or they make a little taco stand, but it has 2 wheels in the front and 1 in the back.
Well, I grew up in New York like you did. You were in upstate New York.
Yeah.
I was in downstate. I know all about those carts. I used to get a lot of hot dogs, and they call them New York knishes off those.
Yeah.
Of those little carts there. Yeah, I'm
familiar. Okay. So I buy this thing, and this guy's mom's passing away of cancer in New York, and he's like, I just want this to go to somebody who's going to make it into a food place. So I was like, I promise you, next week I will make this into a food bike. So I spent all my tax return on this bike, and the bakery, our only bakery in town, it was called the Sweet Shop, was going out of business, and they had a $20 bakery case. I bought it, spray painted the bike and the case the color of hope, which is that aqua blue. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to make some bread and put it in this and wheel it around. So my boyfriend, my fiance, he, spray painted it, got it all up to par. It took us weeks and weeks and weeks. I started riding around and selling bread. And so that was the start of the bikery. But it's not a mobile bakery. It's my whole life is this bike, is how I've overcome everything. Me getting on this bike was me getting over agoraphobia. I left the house. I had to make money. And so slowly but surely, my life has become the bikery. And what started it was when I was homeless, next door to me was a cop and his wife. And I was totally had triggers of cops. But this woman baked. Every morning I saw her bread rising on the outside. So one day I met her at the fence and I said, "Oh my God, what are you making? Are you making bread?" She said, "Yeah." So every day I now have a friend. Unfortunately, it's a cop's wife. In my brain, I'm thinking, I can't do this. But this is what started my healing journey. So every day I went over there and baked. Slowly but surely, her husband would come home and I would stay longer and longer. I felt more comfortable and safer around law enforcement. So she ended up moving because he got promoted to bomb squad. And here I am homeless in an RV next door. She says, "Emily, why don't you get a job at one of the restaurants and you can take over my rent?" So now I've been living there for 2 years in her house. I've made it a home-based bakery. And she gave me the inspiration to cook and to sell it and to actually, I don't know, trust again. So it was like how my life has really healed itself is God put the things that I was scared of and made me deal with them. He put the most non-scary cops in my life, the most nicest police officers I've ever met in my life. And now I trust them. I will call the police if there's something going on. I will make sure I wave at them every time I, drive by. It's changed the whole way I think from this is a scary place to no, this is a beautiful adventure. And so Love'em's Bikery is my whole life. I mean, if you could sum up what my bikery is, bread. I am bread. I am nurturing. I am wholesome. I am warm. I am loving. And to tell you something about bread, I do communion bread every Sunday, because it's such a spiritual thing to me. So I go to the United Methodist Church here in Payson, and every Sunday morning I bring them fresh bread that they use for communion. And it's been a ritual. And if my boyfriend makes the dough at night and I bake it in the morning, it's been a ritual in our relationship for the last year or two. It used to be just me doing it. And then I thought, you know what? It needs more love in it. It needs extra energy. If you make the dough and I bake it, it shows us that we can work as a team together. And so he's been such a tremendous support in my healing journey, in my business, in my life. And it's trusting another human being. We need each other and we're stronger as one. And with that concept that I've taught myself to get through all these traumatic events is I'm not alone and I'm never alone. And that concept really makes me feel good at night.
Emily, that's a beautiful story. I want to share a comment that just came through, not through our Facebook feed live, but through a watch party that I have going on my personal page. There's someone in your life today that cares a lot about you, and I know has a lot of love for you. And I'm not going to tell you her name, but I'm going to tell you what she wrote, and then you can tell us who
feel it.
Okay. She says, "Emily, we met when you delivered banana bread to me on your beautiful bike." And who might that be?
Oh my gosh. I thought it was my sister. Now I'm totally wrong.
No, it's not your sister.
No, because my sister's in North Carolina. Oh my gosh. There's so many people who met me on my bike, guys.
that you delivered banana bread? That you delivered banana bread to?
Yes. Honestly.
Oh, that's good news then. So you sold more than one loaf.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful. Well, then I'll make it easy for you. That's Deborah.
Oh, Deborah. Oh my gosh.
Right
and the
now.
thing is, Deborah is who brought me to you. Jay.
And my name is Deborah.
Right.
Yes.
My full name is Deborah.
She's an angel. She is such an angel. And God put us in each other's lives. And we were both going through hard times and we needed each other. Mm-hmm. And she gave me the shirt from you, Choose Hope. And that's the shirt I have of yours. And I wore it the day my dad was sick. And I swear to God, that is what's saving my dad right now, is the community of spiritual people actually praying and believing. And
beautiful.
Yeah. And Deborah, I love you. Thank you for introducing me and Deb and Jay.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you. Emily, we are over time right now. And so what I'd like to ask you to do, we're not in trouble. We didn't do anything wrong. we are right where we're supposed to be, and it's just fine. But what I'd like to do is ask you maybe just to take a few moments here to close out the show. Maybe just share some parting words for maybe a woman or another man that needs to hear some words of inspiration by you from what you've learned through your healing process. Just bookend the show for us.
Well, I know that pain is real, and I know that sometimes it feels like, you just want to give up, but I can honestly say it's not worth it, because when you stay alive, you save so many lives. By me not taking my life and by choosing to stay alive and be a warrior, I'm here telling my story, and I know others are out there that are struggling, but you can get through it. I'm not the only miracle that's ever happened. He makes them every single day, and he can choose to do anything you want him to do. Like with God, everything is possible. And I realize that, you know what? It is the answer. Hope is real, and so are you. And if you believe in yourself, that can make anybody's world change. By me smiling at somebody having a really crappy day, it just saves. And just by being present to know that somebody else is not having a bad day, you can save their life. Mm-hmm. The only thing I honestly can say is just love yourself and know that you're worth living another day, and you're worth being alive. I love you guys. And
thank you so much, Emily. Deb?
Oh, yeah, of course I have something to say.
Okay.
Emily, you're just amazing, and I just wanted to, first of all, honor you for coming on. I know it took a few attempts, and it just wasn't right, and that's okay. And it is now, and you're going to be feeling just on top of the world now that you've been able to release that, because that wasn't all yours. That wasn't yours. Somebody else's choice is not, you don't own it, right? So you're able to release that, and hopefully you watch this over again, because watching it from a new perspective of, even through my eyes, if you look at it through someone else's eyes, you're able to actually acknowledge your own story and what you went through. So I just encourage you to go through it and go, holy crap, this girl went through a lot. And just big pat on the back and a hug for yourself, because you're amazing. And I'm just so proud for you and so excited for you now.
Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And so here's my parting thoughts and words. Emily, again, I thank you. And I hope that today is another stepping stone, another level playing up of healing for yourself. I have a suspicion that it is. I could see a shift right now in your body and your energy. And I could feel a weight is somewhat lighter and lifted from you. I just sit here and know that the 3 stones that I shared with you are always on my dining table. I have 2 other stones that are very dear to my heart, and they're actually in my bathroom, and they're on a shelf, and they are trust and faith. Those are the 2 stones that mean so much to me. And I want to thank you again for being here, being brave, having the courage to show up and step in and share your truth and have your voice be heard, not only for yourself, but for others that may be struggling today and are ready to start their own healing process and journey. I look forward to the time in June when I believe we will meet, and we're going to each give you a hug, and we're going to have a group hug like we have had here today. And if there's anything that Mary and I can do to help you along your planning stage, let us know. And with that, we do have a special show coming up on Tuesday. Debby and I are going to do a special show. We've got a woman, her name is Natalie, and she's going to come into the studio, and she's going to share her healing journey, which is a little bit different than yours. She was diagnosed with breast cancer over 3 years ago, and she chose to opt out of traditional Western treatment. And she's going to come into the studio and share her healing journey and where she's at today with with just that, her healing journey from a diagnosis and a prognosis. And on Wednesday, we have another show coming up with a woman. Her name is Lisa. And Lisa is going to come in to share her story. She was in a cult for many, many years. And her story is a little different than the last individual that came in to share their story of spending. That was Frank Lyford, that spent many years, a couple decades in a cult. And Lisa reached out to me and said she'd like to come in and share her story after she watched the show that I did with Frank. And so we're going to have a pretty active week here ahead of us. I'm excited. But for today, I think it's a wrap.
I just have to say one thing, Emily. I know that you were talking about starting a nonprofit that, maybe we should make that kind of international and come to Canada too. Maybe we should start one together, and maybe we should work together, okay?
Yes.
Okay, because helping the homeless is near and dear to my heart too. And speaking of mental health and being where I am right now, I'm only literally a paycheck away. So I understand the realities of it, and I understand how hard it can be. And let's work together. And Jay, if you're in on it too, come on with us.
All right. Well, we'll just take it one day at a time and see where the universe leads us, and where we're supposed to be is where we're going to end up. And with that, Emily and those that joined us live or on replay, thank you for joining us. It's a wrap for Real People, Real Stories Raw. Catch you next Tuesday. This Tuesday coming up, we're going to have a powerful show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Emily.
Bye, guys. Love you.
Bye.
Love you too.
Stay on after, and we'll